You look around your room, and for a moment, you feel a strange, tightening pressure in your chest that you can't quite name. It's not that the space is dirty or that you failed at some domestic chore. It's just that there is so much of everything. There are books you haven't touched in years, clothes that hold memories of a person you no longer are, and gadgets that promised to save you time but ended up stealing your attention. You've been told that these things are your rewards, the physical evidence of a life well lived, yet they feel like anchors. You carry a secret shame about it, a feeling that you are somehow cluttered on the inside too. You wonder why you can't just exist in a space without feeling like the walls are slowly leaning in, heavy with the weight of everything you've gathered. You tell yourself you're being dramatic, or perhaps just ungrateful. But the truth is simpler and far more profound than a lack of gratitude. What if that restlessness isn't a flaw in your character, but a quiet, honest signal from your soul? You aren't failing at being a consumer. You are reaching the natural limit of what your mind was ever meant to process. We were never designed to manage an endless inventory of objects, digital pings, and physical choices. When you feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of your life, it isn't because you are weak, it's because you are sensitive. You are noticing the invisible cost of every object you own, the way it occupies a tiny corner of your focus, demanding to be cleaned, moved, organized, or remembered. Your exhaustion is a sophisticated response to a world that has forgotten how to be still. From a neurological perspective, your brain is constantly performing a silent, Herculean task called filtering. Every object in your line of sight is a piece of data. Your visual cortex scans the room, and even if you aren't looking directly at that stack of mail or that unused exercise bike, your brain is still processing their presence. This is what psychologists call visual noise. For someone with a high level of cortical arousal or a sensitive nervous system, this noise is loud. It's a constant low-frequency hum that drains your battery before the day has even truly begun. When you seek minimalism, you aren't just cleaning up. You are actually trying to lower the volume of the world so you can finally hear yourself think. You are seeking a state of neurological rest that our modern environment rarely allows. Imagine a man named George. He is sitting by a window, watching the rain blur the edges of the trees outside. There is a single ceramic cup in his hand, its surface cool and smooth. For years, George felt a persistent, buzzing anxiety, a sense that he was always behind, always missing something. He tried to buy his way out of that feeling, thinking the right tool or the right decor would finally make him feel at home. But today, the room behind him is mostly empty. There is a desk, a chair, and the soft light of the late afternoon. As he watches the raindrops race down the glass, he realizes that for the first time in a decade, he doesn't feel the need to move. He isn't thinking about what needs to be organized or what he should be buying next. In the absence of things, he has found the presence of himself. He isn't empty. He is finally spacious. This spaciousness isn't a void to be feared. It is the laboratory of the self. When George looks at that nearly empty room, he isn't seeing a lack of resources, but a surplus of possibility. For so long, we have been conditioned to believe that more is better. More options, more safety nets, more expressions of our identity. But there is a hidden strength in the person who who requires very little to feel whole. It suggests an internal architecture that is so sturdy, it doesn't need to be propped up by external scaffolding. When you choose to own less, you are making a radical statement about your own sufficiency. You are deciding that your value is not a sum total of your acquisitions, but an inherent quality of your being. This sensitivity of yours, the one that feels crushed by clutter, is actually a gift of discernment. It means you are deeply attuned to your environment. In a survival context, your ancestors were the ones who noticed the slight rustle in the grass or the change in the wind. Today, that same trait makes you a person who can find profound beauty in the grain of a wooden table or the way the light hits a bare wall. You don't need fixing because you can't handle a crowded life. It is the world's expectation of constant accumulation that is broken. You were built for quality, for depth, and for long, unbroken stretches of contemplation. You were not built to be a warehouse manager for your own belongings. George sets his cup down on the table, the sound a soft, singular click in the quiet room. He realizes now that his previous life wasn't just full of things. It was full of shoulds. Every object was a silent representative of a version of himself he felt he had to maintain. The unread books were the intellectual George. The expensive kitchen gadgets were the perfect host George. By letting them go, he isn't losing parts of himself. He is releasing the ghosts of people he never actually wanted to be. He feels lighter, not because he has less, but because he has fewer masks to wear. The shift happens when you stop trying to adapt yourself to a frantic, overstimulated world and start shaping your world to fit your soul. Minimalism isn't a project of deprivation. It is a project of environmental alignment. It is the act of creating a sanctuary that honors your need for peace. When you clear the physical space, you are actually clearing the psychic space required for your true self to emerge from the shadows. You aren't getting rid of your life. You are finally making room for it to begin. As the sun begins to dip below the horizon, casting long, golden shadows across the floor, George feels a deep sense of alignment. The world outside is still loud, still demanding, and still cluttered, but within these four walls, there is a truce. He realizes that he doesn't need to change his nature to survive the modern age. He just needs to protect the quiet. And in that quiet, he hears something he hasn't heard in years. The sound of his own breath, steady and rhythmic, reminding him that he is already and has always been enough. He stays there for a long time, watching the gold of the sunset dissolve into a soft, bruised purple. It occurs to him that most of his life was spent preparing for a future that never arrived, surrounded by objects intended for someday. But in this stripped-back reality, someday has lost its power over him. There is only the cool air coming through the window and the weight of his own hands in his lap. He realizes that minimalism isn't a destination or a design aesthetic. It is a continuous practice of honesty. It is asking oneself over and over, what is essential to my peace? And having the courage to let the rest fall away. This is the quiet realization we all eventually face, that our lives are composed not of the things we possess, but of the quality of our attention. Every unnecessary object we remove acts like a shutter opening on a window, letting in a little more light, a little more clarity. You are not a vessel to be filled until you overflow. You are a garden that requires pruning to truly bloom. By choosing less, you are finally choosing yourself.